Good morning, students. Today, again, we are going to continue with our actual classes that we were doing earlier, and hope that whatever test that you have given earlier, you have done it in a proper way and with your own skills and studies that you have done till now. Now, to continue with, as we were going through with our chapter number 4 in history, which was regarding the Turkish invasion in India. And in this chapter, we learned about which were the important dynasties or which were the people who in the later part of the middle century, they started invading and coming to Indian territories. And in this, we were studying about mostly the Turkish invasions that were done, or the Turkish people or the kingdoms or kings who had come and invaded India in various different times, and who were there and what were their activities. Now in this, we had studied first of all about Muhammad of Ghazni. Now about Muhammad of Ghazni, we had studied that he was from an Afghan territory or kingdom, from a place which name was Ghazni, and he invaded India several different times. Now the main motive of his invasions were to take the important wealth that were existing in India and carry it to his own kingdom and make his own kingdom more wealthy. And in that process, we had studied as to how in different times he had come to Indian territories, and in different periods he invaded various different places, most probably importantly the Somnath temple, and various different kings like Anandpal, Jaipal, and how he defeated them and took all the important wealths. There were mass killing, mass murder that were done by him, and these all wealth that he had carried with him made his own kingdom a very wealthy state or wealthy kingdom in his own time. Now the next that we are going to study is about Muhammad Ghori. Now Muhammad Ghori also was a Turkish king who invaded Indian territory during the 12th century, and he was from a kingdom from Afghanistan whose name was Ghor, Ghor, Ghor. And it is said that Muhammad Ghori had a different intention in his mind, which was just opposite to Muhammad of Ghazni who had come. Now Muhammad of Ghazni had come to invade India to loot the important wealth that were there prevailing in India and make his kingdom wealthy. But here on the other hand, Muhammad of Ghazni had come to India. He wanted to invade India in regarding to settling down his own kingdom or territory in India. So both of their perspectives in regarding to coming to India and invading India were a different one, totally a different ideas. Now it is said here that Muhammad Ghori, he first bought his frontier over the place of Multan, Sindh, and then Punjab under his control. That means what? Northwestern part of India was most probably targeted by him first, where he captured Multan, then Sindh, then he came inside the Punjab territory, and slowly and one by one he started capturing the Indian territories. Now in the later part, there are two important things mentioned here, that is the battles or important battles that made him more successful. First of all, we are going to study about the Battle of Tarain, which was the first Battle of Tarain, which took place in 1191 CE. Now here in this battle, it was against Raja Jayachandra of Kanauj, who refused to surrender himself under him. Now there were armies of Rajputs and Ghori who clashed in the first battle, and the Rajputs, Delhi, Ajmer, then you have Prithviraj Chauhan. We have majorly heard about Prithviraj Chauhan. Now he battled against Prithviraj Chauhan in the first battle of Tarain, where Prithviraj Chauhan was defeated by Ghori, and then Ghori, who took over his control over the territories that were there under Prithviraj Chauhan. In the second battle of Tarain, it is said that, as I told you, it was regarding Raja Jayachandra of Kanauj, who was also a Rajput who had a battle with Ghori. It was around 1192. The first battle took place in 1191. It was against Prithviraj Chauhan. Initially, it was said that Prithviraj Chauhan in the first first time he had defeated Muhammad Ghori, but again Muhammad Ghori attacked Prithviraj Chauhan, and the second time Muhammad Ghori was successful and he captured his territory. In 1192, it was said that it was again Rajput kingdoms which was under the control of Raja Jayachandra, and they had a furious war in 1192 CE. Now in this war, again Muhammad Ghori was successful. He uprooted the Rajput army and he defeated many of the Rajput kingdoms which are nearby, smaller in kingdoms, and now the kingdom of Delhi were passed on to the hands of Muhammad Ghori. That means Muhammad Ghori took control over the kingdom of most of the territories which were controlled by the Rajputs during that time. And this is how he was successful in coming up and becoming the king of Delhi, and he overtook the throne of Delhi. Now, 2 years later, after the second Battle of Tarai, Muhammad Ghori attacked Kannauj and killed Raja Jayachandra. He annexed the Indian territory to his empire and appointed Kutubuddin Aibak as his viceroy before returning to Ghor. He made his kingdom, he established his territorial rule in India, but he did not settle down by himself. What he did, he returned back to his own state, Ghor. But before returning back, what he did is that he appointed his own loyal person, now whose name was Kutubuddin Aibak. Now there is also a story about how Kutubuddin Aibak was appointed by Muhammad Ghori. Now it is said that Muhammad Ghori, most probably what he used to do is that he used to buy slaves for his own armed forces, to build his own armed forces, and he used to treat the slaves very well. It was said that Muhammad Ghori used to treat his slaves very well because they used to fight. They were very much stronger than the other men considerably, and so he gave them special treatments and gave them important posts also in his own kingdom. And Kutubuddin Aibak was also one of the slaves of Muhammad Ghori, who was trained well, who was positioned well in his armed forces, in Muhammad Ghori armed forces. That is why he was most loyal to Muhammad Ghori, and while returning back, he appointed Kutubuddin Aibak as a viceroy to take care of the territories that were captured by Muhammad Ghori. Now Kutubuddin captured the fort of Kalinjar in Bundelkhand and Ahilwara in Gujarat and extended his Muhammad Ghori's territory to a large extent, and in the northern part of Mathura, Gwalior and Malwa. Now another great general of Ghori was Muhammad bin Bakhtiar Khilji, swept across Bihar with his army and overthrew the Sena dynasty of Bengal. Now on the other hand, one more important person whose name was Muhammad bin Bakhtiar Khilji, he was also given some of the responsibility to take some of the territorial extension in the other part where he took over Bihar. Then he took and captured the Sena dynasty under the Bengal dominant. Now many Buddhist monasteries and libraries were wantonly destroyed by the invaders. This invasion dealt a death blow to Buddhism in India. A few monks managed to escape to Tibet with their manuscript. Buddhism continued to flourish in Tibet. Now Muhammad Ghori was not as great as military leader as Muhammad al-Ghazni, nor did he patronize art and learning like him. Yet some historians regard him as the founder of Turkish kingdom in India with its capital in Delhi. Why it is said so? Because most of the time it is said that he was a establisher. He had an aim and objective which was different from Muhammad al-Ghazni, who invaded India and went back, taking the looted wealth along with him. But Muhammad Ghazni was considered to be the person who established the Turkish rule in India, because it is said that he not only carried away the wealth, but he also established his territorial kingdom in the Indian states, whereas he captured few of the other important parts, and then he took over the control of many different places, some of them by himself and some of them by his appointed people that were there in different parts, like Kutubuddin Aibak and Bakhtiar Khilji, as we have discussed now. Now, in this regard, in the later part, it is said that from that onwards, a new system of rule or leadership started. That was known as the Delhi Sultanate, the period of the Delhi Sultanate. It started at around 1206 to 1526 CE, which was known as the Delhi Sultanate. And there were rulers who were known as sultans. They were ruled from Delhi, their capital city. Now, in this regard, the most important starting dynasty that started to dominate the territorial or who had captured and established their own kingdom were the Mamluk dynasty. Now, this Mamluk dynasty was done. It was said that Muhammad Ghori, who died in around 1206 CE, he had no heirs, means he had no legal heir who could succeed in his part. So he appointed viceroys and declared themselves as independent kingdoms of their own. And in this regard, Qutbuddin Aibak, as we discussed earlier itself, Qutbuddin Aibak took control over most of the Indian parts of territory where Muhammad Ghori had established. And he laid the foundation of the Delhi Sultanate. And as I told you, he was from a slave dynasty. That is why this dynasty is known as Mamluk dynasty, because Mamluk means a belonger from a slave background. So that is why this particular dynasty which started was given name as the Mamluk dynasty. And Qutbuddin Aibak, being one of the slaves who established this rule in India in the initial stage, that is why this particular period was known as the Mamluk dynasty. And he founded the Mamluk dynasty, or the slave, also known as the slave dynasty. So this is one of the important where we are going to learn about the other important things, how this Mamluk dynasty got established under Qutbuddin Aibak. Then after Qutbuddin Aibak, who are the important people who carried away or who carried on the Mamluk dynasty to a larger extension or increase. We are also going to learn about one of the important dominant women leader during the Sultanate period, who was known as Razia Sultan, and how important or what important message was given to the people by her, or what examples she set in later part. And we are also going to learn accordingly how after the Mamluk dynasty, which are the other important dynasty which kept on building up or establishing one by one in the Delhi Sultanate period. This is all for today. We are going to continue this chapter in our next class. Thank you very much.